Hello there and welcome to this speaking lesson, which is entitled Explaining a Process. In this lesson, you're going to learn the meaning of explaining a process, some tips that will help you to speak while you are explaining a process, and finally we'll have some exercise. Are you ready? Let's go. What is explaining a process? Now, when you explain the step-by-step order of how to do something, how something works, and how things happen, then you are describing a process. For example, how to get a visa, how to plan for a party, how to make, for example, coffee, how glass is made. So all these things describe a process. Let's see now some tips that will help you while you are explaining a process. First of all, determine the topic that you're going to explain. So put in your mind, I'm going to talk about how to plan for a party, for example. So put in your mind the topic that you're going to talk about. Then gain a clear understanding of the steps within the process. So just have a picture in your mind of the steps. First, second, third, have it in your mind. Then prepare a flow chart of the steps. Flow chart, just get a paper and a pen and very quickly draw pictures and words of the process in a paper. That's it, to make things clearer for you. After that, consider other possible methods of some steps. Now, for example, while you are explaining a step, maybe this step can be done in different ways. So you need to mention these steps. For example, you can say, in this step, you can do this or you can do this. You can use this thing or instead you can use this thing. So try to put all the probabilities that may occur at any step. And also, consider any problems that might occur during a particular step and how these problems can be handled. So, for example, you are explaining a step, then you would say, but if such a problem happens, then do this and this. Or in this case, you may face such a problem, solve it in this and this way. So don't let your listener get stuck at any step. Next, consider your audience. For example, if you have children and you are explaining some step for them, of course you will use a language or steps that fit them. It will not be the same as when you are explaining a process for adults or grown-ups, for males or females, for specialists. For example, you are explaining some kind of food or cook. If you are explaining it to a normal person, of course you will not use the same way or process when you are explaining it to a specialist cook, right? Now, for example, when you are explaining something for children, of course you will not use the same way of speaking and explaining when you are explaining it for adults or grown-ups, right? So you have to consider your audience. Once you consider your audience, you have to choose the method that is the clearest and the most likely to be understood by your target audience. So you have to measure your words, your process, and your audience. Then try to describe the steps in chronological or logical order. That is, what is first, what is next, what is after that. Don't try to jump from third back to one or from 5 to 7. Keep it chronological. Determine the voice, whether passive or active. Of course, when you use the active, you may say, for example, you do this, then you do that, or you want passive. This is done, that is done. So you have to use one voice and try to use it all over the steps. Now, use transitions to move from one step to another. What does that mean? these transitions. For example, to show that this is the first step, you can say first of all, initially. Then you move to the second step. So you can say second or next. Then when you are moving through the steps, you can use then, after that, or after this, afterwards, before this, before that, later, when. Now when you are explaining two things happening at the same time, so you may use while, meanwhile, as, during, at the same time. Then when you come to the last step, you may say finally, in the end, eventually, last. So these words help the listener how you are moving through the steps. Now let's see some examples and phrases that may help you while you are explaining a process. You may say, the first step is, or the next step is, or after you do this and that, you should do this and that. After you do this, you need to do this. Next, you need to do this and that. Here are some questions. Maybe you want to involve your listeners in your speaking, so you may ask them such questions. What's the next step after I do this and that? Or, what should I do after I do this and that? Or, what do I need to do after doing this and that? So this will give a good expression for your speaking. Here is an exercise. This example is about how to exercise abdominal crunch perfectly, but the steps are not in the right order. Your task is to go through these sentences very quickly and determine the right order for this process. I will give you some time, of course, and I will give you some hint also. Guess what? Here we go. These words will help you find out the right order. Finally, first, then, and next. Take some seconds. Done? Let's see. So, what is the first step, you think? Of course, first. First, lie down with your knees comfortably bent. Number 2. Of course, next. Next, put your hands at your sides or fold them over your chest. 3. Then, lift your chest until the shoulder blades leave the floor and then slowly roll back down. And number 4, finally, focus on your abs. Abs is the abbreviation of abdominal muscles. And do your crunches slowly, 3 sets of 10 each. 1 sentence is left. That is, the perfect crunch should be done slowly, working the whole abdominal wall. This is not a part of the process. This is just a note, a piece of advice. It's not a part of the process. Therefore, you can start with it or end with it. You can put it at the beginning or you can just leave it to the end. Here is another example. This is a mind map about how to make pancake. Take a look at it, then together we'll try to write we will say the right process for making pancake. So let's take a look. Here, number 1, mug, flour. This is a mug. Salt. Here is teaspoon. This is number 2. Get jug. Add flour here. Stir. Then number 3. Add milk, half mug. Egg, 1. Then number 4. Beet mixture. 5 pan. Here is the pan. high heat, tablespoon olive oil, then run around. Then number 6, reduce heat, medium. Number 7, pour, half mixture. Number 8, 3 to 4 minutes, check bottom, flip. Number 8, stomach, rumbles, anticipation. Number 10.
Not number 9, not number 8.
Did I say no?
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Back.
Yellow.
Number 9.
Yeah. 3, 2.
Number 9, stomach. It is experiencing different feelings. And number 10, flip, 3 to 4 minutes. 11, slide, plate, add half lemon, roll, eat. And here you see serves to. Of course, this is not a part of the process, as I said. Therefore, you can start with it or you can just leave it till the end. Let's start with it. So I may say, this recipe serves to. Again, it's not a part of the process. Let's start. First, and notice here the words, the linking words I am using. The transitions. Get half a mug of flour and add half or quarter a teaspoon of salt. Second, get a jug, add flour and stir. 3. Then add half a mug of milk and 1 whole egg. Now beat the mixture. After beating the mixture very well, get a pan, heat it, then add a tablespoon of olive oil all around the pan. When the pan is hot, reduce the heat to medium. Now pour half the mixture. After 3 to 4 minutes, check the bottom of your cake. If it is lightly browned, then flip it. And take a look here. You check the bottom, and of course in the drawing it shows that it's a little bit brown, then you flip. Meanwhile, your stomach is experiencing different feelings. It rumbles, there is anticipation, hunger, aroma, of course the flavor. After 3 to 4 minutes, flip it again. Finally, slide the pancake into a plate, add half a lemon, roll it and eat it. Yummy. Here is another example, again about bread. But your task is different now. Change active to passive. So you have a whole process, but it's in active voice. Your task is to change all the steps to passive. Note that you will not change anything in the introduction or the conclusion, because you will change the process only. Take a look. Here it is. Let's go through the introduction and the conclusion. Bread is eaten in most parts of the world, but not everyone knows how to bake it. I am going to show you what the steps involved in baking bread are. So, nothing to do with this. Let's jump to the conclusion. It can be seen that making bread is not difficult as long as the correct procedure is followed. You will love the taste and smell of your freshly baked bread. Put them aside. Let's take the body only. Here it is. Let's change step by step. First, measure the correct amount of flour and warm water. So you notice here, it's active, it's imperative, warm. Let's change it to passive. Try. Think about it. Think. Okay? See the answer? Okay. First, the correct amount of flour and water, warm water, is measured. Here it is passive. Next, mix the flour and water together in a mixing bowl. Think about it. Change it to passive. The answer would be next, the flour and water are mixed together in a mixing bowl. Add yeast, salt and sugar. Passive form would be, okay, yeast, salt and sugar are added. Next, knead the mixture until it feels almost dry. So change it to passive. You may say, next, the mixture is kneaded until it feels almost dry. Leave the mixture for about an hour in a warm place. So, change it, please. All right. The mixture is left for about an hour in a warm place. It will grow in size. Here, there is nothing to be changed. There is nothing to be done. So there is no need to change it to passive. So keep it as it is. Move to the next one. After this, knead the mixture again. Make sure the mixture is not sticky when you touch it. Have some time and change it to passive. You may say, after this, the mixture is kneaded again until it is not sticky when it is touched. Now, then leave the dough in a baking tin for about an hour to give it time to rise. So you may say, then the dough is left in a baking tin for about an hour to give it time to rise. Finally, the last step. The dough is put into a preheated oven for about 40 minutes. Change it to passive. Okay, you did it. If you are smart enough, you will find out that it is already in passive. The dough is put, all right? So it's already in passive. The dough is put into a preheated oven for about 40 minutes. Now, that is all for today's lesson. But before you leave, try to remember and focus on these points. Prepare a flow chart for the process because it will help you to think of the steps. Think of any other possible methods or problems that may occur, and of course, once you mention the problems, you have to give solutions for those problems. Consider your audience, how old they are, what specialty they are. Put the process in a chronological order. Don't mix the steps because it will get very confusing. Consider the voice either passive or active. And finally, use transitions to link the steps. That is all for today's lesson. I hope you learned something about describing a process. Wish you all the best. Goodbye.